guys, what's up? It's Eric with Advanced Level Auto. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. So today is the day that I'm finally laying to rest my 2008 Ford Explorer. Now, if you guys didn't know, this has pretty much been my workhorse, my work truck for the past, I would say, 2.5 years now. And it's been a great truck. You know, I've been through lots of ups and downs with it. Put a lot of money into it recently. About 2 years ago, I put the engine in this thing. I did the timing chains front and back. Recently, I put a new alternator, a new battery in it. I mean, it's got a new radiator. I did a lot of suspension work to it, control arms, ball joints, wheel bearings. I recently put tires on it. But unfortunately, as much as I tried to squeeze everything out of this truck, it finally gave out on me. Now, to give you guys a little bit of a backstory, about 2 months ago, the transmission actually started slipping on me. Now, I think the problem actually started a little bit before that because I had a transmission fluid leak where the oil cooler line was leaking. Now, I was able to fix the leak. I replaced the line. However, I think the damage had already been done because ever since then, the transmission just got gradually worse. Every time you would go from second to third gear would slip really bad. And then it would eventually catch, but whenever it would catch, it would kick really hard. I mean, you could feel it in the rear end of the truck. It would just boom, hit really hard. And so I knew at that point that the transmission was probably due for a rebuild. However, with my schedule and the timing, it was just really bad. I really couldn't afford to have any downtime with the truck. And so I kind of tried to push it as far as I could. I really tried to take it easy on the transmission. I tried not to accelerate too hard, but really no matter what I did, the problem just kind of got worse and worse. And it got to the point to where third gear was pretty much non-existent. Like when it would shift into third gear, the revs would go all the way up and the truck wouldn't move. I would have to play with the accelerator, kind of let off and then tap on the accelerator back and forth to try to get it to go into the next gear. And so I managed to squeeze some time out for a little while just driving it like that. But eventually waiting too long caught up to me and I ended up causing an even bigger problem. Now let me tell you what happened. So I was on the freeway headed to my next appointment and I was traveling about 65 miles an hour in the truck and I decided to take the exit. Now this exit in particular is kind of an uphill ramp and so I did have to accelerate a little bit to get around another car and to get up onto the ramp. So I gunned it a little bit, you know, not too hard, but I tried to get around the other guy. And so when I did that, you know, the truck picked up speed, but then the transmission slammed into gear. Like I was telling you guys, when I say it used to slam hard, it was slamming really hard. You could feel it in the rear end. I'm pretty sure what happened is that when the transmission slammed into gear or it went into TCC lockup or something happened at that point in time because like I said, I went to accelerate and as I was going up the ramp, the engine just died. Now, when the engine died, I coasted off to the side and of course I tried to restart it. But when I went to crank the engine, let me let you listen to what it sounds like. All right, so we're inside the truck. I'm gonna go ahead and crank the engine and just take a close listen to what this engine sounds like. You guys hear that? This thing has absolutely no compression. Let me pop the hood so I can show you. Okay, so I've got the camera set up and I want you guys to pay attention to the serpentine belt. I'm just gonna take a little piece of white chalk and I'm gonna mark the serpentine belt. And I'm gonna go inside, I'm gonna crank the engine, and I want you guys to see that the belt is spinning, but it's pretty much just freewheeling. So the crank is turning, but we have zero compression. So I'm pretty sure what happened was that when the transmission slammed into gear or went into TCC lockup, the engine and the transmission were kind of binding with each other. Now you couple that with an uphill climb, that's a recipe for disaster, and I'm pretty sure I snapped the timing chains. Now this of course is all theory. I don't have any proof of that yet, but the way it sounds to me is at the bottom end, the crankshaft is spinning. However, the top, the camshafts are not. So I'm pretty certain that this engine is pretty much destroyed. If these timing chains snap, then likely we have valve to piston contact. And if that's the case, I mean, I'm not even really sure if it's worth fixing this thing because not only do I need to fix the engine, but I also need to fix the transmission. And like I mentioned before, I really can't afford any downtime. So I was pretty much forced to buy another work van. Now this is something that I've been wanting to do for a while actually. I pretty much outgrew this one a long time ago. And so I was really trying to squeeze as much as I could until I felt comfortable financially enough to buy another work van. Now, I wouldn't say that this was the best timing. I mean, is there ever really a good time? Especially during the holidays, you know, right now, funds are kind of tight, but sometimes we're forced into situations to where you know, we got to make a decision, and it was time for me to bite the bullet and finally buy a proper work van. This is my new work van. Well, it's not new, it's used, but it's a 2018 Ford Transit 350. I just picked it up yesterday, and so I'm pretty much moving everything out of my old truck into the new one. Now, this truck I wanted because, you know, it's got plenty of space in the back, and I wanted to be able to build a workspace back here. As you can see, the one I bought was pretty much empty. There's no shelves or anything, so I got plenty of space to, you know, kind of design my own layout here. Obviously, you can tell that it has been used and slightly abused. I am going to have to replace this barrier wall right here because I don't know what they were trying to haul in here, but I'm pretty sure the previous company that had this was trying to fit something in here that really wouldn't fit. And so they had to smash in this whole wall. As you guys can see, it's been pushed in and the door's not even functional. They had to screw it shut. It even ripped the wall away from the bolts in the floor over here. You can see how this used to be over here, and the bolt holes in the body were actually bent as well. I had to straighten them out. Now, I tried to straighten out this wall, but it's so messed up that no matter what I did, I couldn't get it to sit right. So the door as of now is not functional, but I really would like a working door that I can, you know, access the rear cab from the front cab, you know, especially on rainy days where, you know, I don't have to get out of the truck and walk around to come in through the side. But other than that, I mean, the truck is pretty clean. Again, it needs a little bit of TLC in here. I got a really good price on it, and this thing only has 120,000 miles, which I know seems like a lot, but really these things get a lot of highway miles, so you know there's not that much wear and tear on them. This one, of course, I did inspect it mechanically very thoroughly. I looked underneath, made sure the suspension wasn't rusted out, made sure we didn't have any oil leaks. The engine runs great, the transmission shifts great, and it's really good on gas. I get way better gas mileage in this big thing versus my old red Ford Explorer. So like I said, I'm going to be adding some shelving, some work tables, like a workbench, a toolbox. You know, I'm going to really try to have a mobile office so that I can do most of the jobs on site. You know, right now when I do computer cloning, a lot of the stuff I have to take home, bring it back to my office, do it there, and then bring it back the next day. Having a setup that's a mobile office will make it really easy because I'll be able to do it on the spot, get the job done, and get paid the same day. So yeah, I'm really excited about this. I'm going to be making some videos showing you guys the progress of everything. So I hope you guys stay tuned and watch out for upcoming videos. Now, as far as my Explorer, you know, I'm not sure exactly what I'm going to do. I'm thinking about maybe salvaging the truck. I don't want to scrap it because they're only offering me like 400 bucks for scrap metal. I've already put a lot of money into the suspension and other things like the radiator, alternator, battery, tires, stuff like that. And so it seems like it might be kind of a waste. However, I'm not really sure if buying a new motor and buying a new transmission is really worth it when at the end of the day, the truck is probably not worth more than maybe $3,000 or $4,000. So I think what I want to do today is I want to take some time to do a little bit more digging into the damage that's been done to the engine. Is the engine salvageable? Can we fix it? Can we repair it? Or is it beyond hope and maybe we should just scrap it? I don't know, but let's take a look and see what we can find. So I think the first question that we can answer is whether or not the camshafts are actually spinning. And I think there's a quick way we can do this without doing any major disassembly. So I've got this camera from the company DXZtoz. Now this camera in particular, I bought it off of Amazon like 2 years ago. And let me tell you guys, this is my favorite camera that I own. It is an articulating borescope. It's got this really nice high quality screen. The screen actually just clips onto this part right here. So we just slide it on right here. And on the back side, there's a little locking tab that we can use to lock this down into place. So we're just gonna turn it. Now it's locked into place. As you can see, it's a pretty long cable, but the best part of the camera is this little feature. Check out what happens when I spin this knob. How cool is that, guys? This is an awesome feature. This allows you to look into tight spaces, places you could never go with the regular camera, and it makes it really easy to determine whether or not you got a bent valve because you can stick this into the cylinder, articulate the camera upward, and get a clear picture of the top of the cylinder head. Like I said, I've been using this camera day in and day out for about 2 years now, and I love it so much that I got me a second one. This one I'm going to keep in my work van. The other one I'm going to keep here in my garage. Let's go ahead and hit the power button. We've got a really nice bright LED at the end that's adjustable. The quality of the screen is really awesome. It's got a lot of detail. Now let's see if we can put this thing to work. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by removing the oil cap, and we're gonna see if we can get lucky and maybe, just maybe, we can actually see the camshaft through this oil fill. I don't really see it on my camera, and I'm not exactly sure if it's a straight shot because sometimes there's baffles in here inside the valve cover. If there's a baffle in here, we're not going to be able to see inside, but I figure it's at least worth giving it a shot. So I'm just going to take my camera and I'm going to snake it down into the oil filler hole, and we're going to see if hopefully we can get a view of the camshaft. And yep, there it is. We got a straight shot down into the camshaft right there. Now the camera itself has a built-in recording function, so I'm going to be using that for the video, but you guys can see on the screen there's our camshaft, and we got a really clear view. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to crank the engine over, and we're going to watch to see if this thing spins or not. Okay, so we've got the camera set up. You can see we have a good view of the camshaft. Now, I am making sure to be safe here and not have the camera too close. So we have it in there just enough to see the picture, but not close enough so that the camera touches the camshaft. So I'm gonna go inside, crank the engine over, and let's see if this camshaft moves. And as you guys can see, the camshaft did not turn at all. So yeah, that verifies it. Without even removing the valve cover, we were able to determine that our timing chain, at least on this side of the engine, has completely come apart. Now we could also take a look at the driver's side bank. This one, as you can tell, is a lot more difficult to remove the valve cover because the intake manifold basically is covering the valve cover. So it's going to require the removal of the intake manifold in order to get the valve cover off. But I think we can determine whether or not our timing chain on this side came loose by sticking the camera. So if you look right here on top of the valve cover, we have the camshaft sensor. It's held on by one little 8mm bolt. So I'm pretty sure if we remove the sensor, we got a straight shot to look inside the valve cover, and we can see whether or not our camshaft is turning. So I'm going to disconnect the sensor. So I've got a 7mm wrench. I'm going to use that to break this sucker loose. Okay, so we got the bolt removed. Let's go ahead and pull out the sensor. Ew, that does not look good. Check out all that metal stuck to the sensor. Yeah, so there was definitely some catastrophic failure that happened here. Okay, so this time we're going to take the end of our camera and we're going to stick it into the hole for the cam sensor. And we're going to see, yep, clear as day, you can see our camshaft. And there's the reluctor wheel right there. Let me try to get a good view of it. Right there is our reluctor wheel. Take a look on the camera. You can see we got a good view of it. So I'm going to go ahead and crank this engine over, and we're going to see if that thing turns. Is it spinning? And no. This side is not spinning either. Wow. Now, one of the things that I was curious about, and I kind of still want to know, is whether or not we have some valve to piston contact, though at this point, I don't think it really matters because this engine is pretty much shot. I mean, when I pulled that cam sensor out and I saw how much metal was stuck to it, you know, that pretty much told me that it wasn't even really worth my time because those metal shavings make their way throughout the whole engine. They do all kinds of damage. So, you know, at this point, I really don't think it's worth continuing with this engine, but I'm still kind of curious to see the damage inside. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out a spark plug and just stick the camera in there and see if we can find anything. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the spark plug out for, I think this is cylinder number 4. Let me just go ahead and pull the plug wire off. Yeah, this one's the easiest one to get to, so let me go ahead and rip that spark plug out. So I'm just going to zip off this spark plug. There's our spark plug. Doesn't look too bad. So let's go ahead and stick our camera in there and see what we can see. So I'm just going to go into the spark plug hole. All right, there. You can see this piston is already all the way up and the valve is hanging there. Now, I don't know if this valve is hanging because it's bent or it's hanging open because that's where the cam load pretty much stopped. Though I do see something I don't like right there. What is that? You know what, let me bump the engine over. I'm gonna see if I can move the piston down. I tried to just bump it there, but there really is no resistance on this crank, so it just kind of spins freely. Now that piston's still up at the top. Let me bump it over again. Okay, so there we have it. The piston is further down into the bore. I'm gonna send the camera down in there a little bit further to get a closer inspection. You guys see how nasty that piston is? And we can already clearly see the 2 marks on top of the piston where it looks like our valves hit. You see what I'm talking about? We have all this sludge all over the piston, and we have 2 clean marks where obviously something scraped away at the piston, and those pretty much coincide with the valves. So I think what I'm going to do at this point is I'm going to get in there as far as I can, and I'm going to articulate the camera upwards, and we're going to see if we can get a shot of these valves. All right, there you have it, guys. We are looking at the top of the cylinder right now, and we can see clear as day that it looks like our exhaust valve is hanging open, and that's definitely from valve to piston contact. Our intake valve, on the other hand, looks a little bit better. Well, I say that, but now taking a closer look, I don't think that thing is seated properly either. This is likely where all the oil is coming from. You guys see all of the oil all over the cylinder. Well, that's because the valve is hanging open, and when that piston's coming down during the travel, it's pulling a suction or a vacuum through the valve stem seal and pulling oil into the cylinder. So yeah, for sure, we've got valve to piston contact. Oh, there you go. You can see where it actually hit. You see the mark right there on the exhaust valve? And that's where it hit the piston. So yeah, for sure, this one definitely is going to need a new valve job, 100%. Well, that pretty much sums it up, guys. The transmission is shot and the engine is shot. So I think at this point, I might just have to let it go. I don't think it's really worth fixing this truck. I mean, even if I buy a used salvage engine and transmission from the junkyard, this is a very common problem, these timing chains. I might spend a couple grand to buy a used engine and transmission, and I may only get another 50 or 60,000 miles out of it. I mean, who knows? Buying a new or rebuilt engine is going to cost in excess of probably $4,000, which really exceeds the value of the whole truck. On top of that, a rebuilt transmission is probably at least another $2,000. At this point, I hate to say it, but my best option here is to just either part the truck out or get rid of it completely and sell it for scrap. Now, I could try to fix it myself, pull the motor out, rebuild it here in my garage, pull the transmission out, rebuild that here in my garage, and I can probably save myself a lot of money doing that. But honestly, I just don't have the time or even the energy to put into doing a project like that. If I was gonna do a build on something, you know, it's not gonna be something like this. It's gonna have to be something like a classic Mustang or something like that that's worth it. So likely, I'm just gonna sell it for scrap. Now, before I do that, I am going to remove this battery because I just bought this battery about a month ago and this alternator. So these are staying with me before I send this off to the salvage yard. Other than that, they can pretty much take the rest of the truck. Like I said, I've got my new work van. I'm really excited about putting that thing together. It's gonna take some time, but I'm definitely gonna share it with you guys. I'm gonna show you the process before and after. Hopefully we can make it a really cool build, turn it into something that I've always wanted. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, if you guys are interested in checking out this camera, I will leave a link in the description down below. Make sure you check it out. Like I said, this is one of my favorite tools that I own. It saved me a bunch of time when it comes to diagnosing mechanical engine failure. I even use it to find things like oil leaks, wiring harness damage in places that you can't see. I think this is a tool that every diagnostic technician should own, and every mechanic shop should have one in their toolbox. Make sure to check out the link below. I will try to leave a coupon code there for you guys so you can save some money. Anyway, like I always say, thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you found it useful, informational, educational, entertaining. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks.